The White House is touting the investments global tech companies have committed to making here in the United States. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt saying, quote, President Trump has made it clear America cannot rely on China to manufacture critical technologies such as semiconductor chips, smartphones, and laptops. She says companies like Apple and Nvidia are hustling to onshore their manufacturing in the U.S. as soon as possible. So to discuss that a little bit more, we want to bring in former World Bank Group U.S. Executive Director, Commerce and Treasury official, Matthew McGuire. Matthew, good to see you. Thanks for being here. These exemptions are just the latest reversal in President Trump's tariff strategy. I'm wondering how significant you think they are and what kind of impact they will have on businesses and consumers.
Well, the impact is great for the large tech companies, the Apples and the others that spend most of their time and energy building in China and selling into the U.S. Works for them. The challenge I see here is first and foremost for U.S. consumers who will continue to be hammered. And this ultimately is the problem with economy by edict or governing by the whims and phone calls of just one man. Put some numbers to it, and your colleague just mentioned some of this. About 95% of all shoes in America, about 95% of all toys in America are made in China. So basic needs that American families have are going to go up by quite a lot. And those were not exempted. Big tech was, they weren't. Another example, soybean farmers, there are about 500,000 of them in America. They lost about $20 billion in market share in the first Trump administration when he put similar tariffs on. Well, China has not taken down their tariffs on us selling soybeans to them going forward. So soybean farmers in America will continue to get hammered, and many could well go out of business. The third thing I would say is that economy by edict is really troubling a lot of investors around the world. And what we saw this week was a big bond sell-off. United States bonds, treasuries, have been historically considered risk-free, meaning that people had absolute faith in the credit and full faith of the US government. What we're seeing when people sell our treasuries is people are no longer having that full faith. So that's very worrying from a foreign policy perspective, but it's also very worrying for American consumers, and it means mortgages go up, more expensive to buy a house. Auto loans go up, more expensive to buy a car. And then just basic small businesses that need loans, those costs are going up. So in full, I see this as great for a couple of big tech companies, and it's great that people don't have to pay as much for flat screen TVs, but I think that gets overwhelmed by all the other damage that continues to be done for American consumers.
Matthew, give me an estimate here, if you will. The president says his goal is to bring these companies back to manufacturing here in America. What does something like that, how long does that take to get these companies back here to build their factories, to begin to hire people, to manufacture? What's your estimate on that?
Generally, people say anywhere from 2 to 5 years, but the first thing that has to happen is people have to believe these tariffs are actually going to stay in place. If the president is changing policy by phone call here and there, then people aren't going to be able to plan and think that that's really going to happen. But the second thing I'd say is let's look at the record. Let's look at the past. Remember, there was the huge announcement that Foxconn, the big Chinese company, was going to build in Wisconsin, and tens of billions of dollars were supposedly coming back in, including about $3 billion that the state of Wisconsin was going to give Foxconn. They ended up spending about $600 million, ended up hiring about 1,400 people. And if I'm not mistaken, someone else is now running that factory. So I think we have to look at the historical record and say announcements are nice, but what really matters is what happens at the end of the day. And do we have confidence that that's really going to be the case?
Yeah, and Matthew, just quickly, what do you think is going to happen this week when markets begin to respond?
I think the bond markets are the ones to watch, but I think the other really important thing to pay attention to are corporate earnings. This is earnings season. And what we're seeing is companies are going to start giving us projections of what they think is going to happen over the next 3 to 6 months. That's a really important barometer. It's less what happens phone call by phone call and more what are the big players, the big companies, American consumer confidence, what are those numbers looking like? And I think we'll see a lot through earnings season.
Matthew McGuire, so great to have your expertise. Thanks for the conversation.
Thank you.